Good morning, Wellspring. My name is Judy Bethman, and I'm part of your Sunday celebration team for Sunday, March 21st, 2021. Please stand if you are able, and let's sing our song of joy this morning, Whisper to My Heart.
Whisper to my heart, I will hear you. Whisper to my heart, I am listening, Lord. Spirit, like a gentle wind, send your peace to me again. Whisper to my heart. Whisper to my heart, I will hear you. Whisper to my heart, I am listening, Lord. Spirit, like a gentle dove, sing me your song of love. Whisper to my heart. Whisper, Lord, and there is music. Whisper and peace will fall as snow. Quiet me with your perfect love. In the stillness speak and I will know. Whisper to my heart, I will hear you. Whisper to my heart, I am listening, Lord. Spirit, like a gentle wind, send to me or me again. Whisper to my heart. Whisper to my heart.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. Let us do our vision, mission, and affirmation statements. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: I hold a vision, a grand vision for my life. I affirm that I am a person of unlimited faith. I believe that all things are possible. I trust Spirit to do the creative work in my life adventure. I affirm that whatever I encounter, there is a perfect solution. All right, let us take a deep breath and lean back in our chairs and shut our eyes. If you have a mind, then put your feet firmly planted on the floor to make a connection with terra firma. And let us invite Spirit, the permeation of God's love throughout our community, the community of Las Cruces, the state of New Mexico, the country of the United States, North America, the whole globe, and the universe. Because we know we are all with one unconsciousness. We are connected in every way possible, through mind, on a cellular level, even through our breaths. The atoms that you are breathing right now, Einstein breathed, the dinosaurs breathed, and God breathed. So, as we continue our service, let us walk forth in our minds and in our hearts and do Spirit's good work for this week and always. And so it is. And the reading today is a poem titled Garden of Your Mind. What are you growing in the garden of your mind? What do you water, nourish, feed? Do you plant seeds of forgiveness, of love, or do you fertilize weeds of anger, resentment, fear? What are you growing in the garden of your heart? Do you allow sunshine to reach dark pain in the corners of your heart? Do you allow tears to wash it clean and nourish it? Or do you put up fences to keep out the feelings? Get on your knees and grow your own food. Decide what it is you want in your soil. Know what you are cultivating, what you are growing. A lot can grow in the garden of your body if you let it seed, nourish it, allow it, and watch it grow. And so it is. All right, and now we have our special music.
Gonna do something a little different today. In observance of the first day of spring here at Wellspring, I'm gonna play Winter. Just kidding. I'm gonna play Spring by Vivaldi. Is this good volume? Up a little? Okay. Here we go. That's okay, right? All right, here we go. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
And lest you think Vivaldi is turning over in his grave, he used brand new instruments and he copied from other composers, so I think he would applaud as you applauded, Mark. Thanks a lot, Mark. All right, it is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, our beloved Dr. Edward Burlbaw.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Mark. You know, in case you haven't heard, we're going to miss you when you leave. So as Mark reminded us, today is the first day of spring. And as I mentioned earlier, well, yesterday, right? Okay, I got it, yeah. As I said earlier this month, I was going to speak twice this month on a related topics or a common theme, and that theme has to do with spring and preparing your garden for planting and planting your garden. So that now spring is officially here, we're going to be talking about the planting side of it. Yeah, and I'll be showing a slide a little later. And of course, this is related to our spiritual growth, not just with respect to our vegetable gardens. So to summarize what I talked about 2 weeks ago, that was about preparing your garden and for the planting and the growth of our plants. And we talked about how we dug through our garden shed and we picked up our tools that we had kind of carelessly perhaps thrown in there at the end of last year. And we're really talking about our spiritual tools. So we took our spiritual tools out and we took a look at them. Maybe we dusted them off and we checked to see if they were still relevant to where we are today. And if maybe we needed to discard some, or maybe we needed to introduce some new ones, you know, make a trip to the Lowe's or a home improvement store and pick up some new tools. And then we talked about making sure our spiritual energy was flowing. And we wanted it to be flowing smoothly. We wanted the pipes, so to speak, to have no kinks in them and no leaks in them. And in particular, kinks may be in the forms of blockages or perhaps leaks such as strong emotional reactions to things which can leak our energy out. So we talked about that. And then we realized that as we were preparing or getting ready to prepare the ground, that there may have been some weeds that had sprung up over the last year. And so we, did a little maintenance there and we got rid of the weeds, because the next thing we did then was to add some fertilizer, some nutrients to the soil and mixed them in, and then we smoothed out the soil. And so in that sense, we smoothed out ourselves and our spiritual situation, if you will, so that the seeds would fall on this ready, willing, and able surface of our mind and of our soul. So now there are probably hundreds of sermons written about seeds and planting and growing of our gardens, and maybe even some of those are being spoken of in other organizations, other churches today. And there are many, many expressions that compare the mind and thoughts to the planting of seeds. And I think it's one of our basic tenets of this philosophy. So just to show that we too, in our philosophy, can speak about planting and growing and seeds, I'm going to talk about, read what we believe, which is, of course, in our little book, Basic Ideas, but it's also in every monthly magazine. And this is the 8th one down. And we say, we believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind that receives the direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. And I'll go into a little bit more detail later on that, but I also want just to remind us of some catchy phrases perhaps that you've heard already about planting And here's one from Buddha. It says, what you think you become, what you feel you attract, what you imagine you create. And so this is again impressing upon the fertile universe to give us what we planted. Emmett Fox says, what you think upon grows. Whatever you allow to occupy your mind, you magnify in your life. Whether the subject of your thought be good or bad, the law works and the condition grows. And I think, Judy, that was almost directly from one of the lines in the poem that you read. So here's some more, similar to that as well. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant will grow. Your thoughts are seeds you're planting. They produce each after its kind. And you, just like a gardener, can choose which seeds you'll plant. And by the choice of seeds you sow, you choose the harvest you will reap. And maybe a little less poetic, the things that are happening to us now and the harvest are the harvest of thoughts and actions sown in the past. Today's thoughts and actions are seeds being sown for a future harvest. And I couldn't miss this one from Reverend Sam. As you've probably heard him say a number of times, today is yesterday's newspaper. So, Edwin, I'm ready to show that first slide, if you will. So while we get the slides set up, I want to mention that I'm going to be showing a slide from a metaphysical chart in the Science of Mind magazine. It's a set of charts. Sorry, there's nothing you can do about that, Edwin, but so in the technical world, we call this an eye chart. So if you can read any of it, I'm really very, very sorry about that.
I need the next powerful lens.
Yeah, which is better, A or B? Well, let's put it this way. I trust that, how about leaving the front on for me? Yeah. Okay. All right, well, that's a part of the important thing. All right, I trust you, since you can't hardly read this, those of you that are in the sanctuary, those of you that are home, I hope you can. Yeah, they can see that well. Okay, very good. You can always look it up in the Science of Mind book. And instead of, since you can't see it, I'm going to read a few of those. But let's start at the top. And that says spirit, first cause, self-existence, power, the word. And I want to point out that first cause is like the seed. And you'll notice that on the right I have seed, which those in the sanctuary can read. Now the middle part, which I call the soil, is what's called the creative medium. Now if you've had any of the classes, you've probably gone through this chart a number of times. And as a matter of fact, there's easily a half a dozen charts that explain the same thing in slightly different words and with different interests. So the middle part of the soil is the creative medium, impersonal, neutral, plastic. One I like here is it's called not knowing but only doing. Not knowing but only doing. It knows not what it does. Passive and receptive. And so we talk about the law and how it's impersonal. That's this level. And as Emmett Fox says, you know, the law works and the condition grows. That's the soil nurtures whatever seed you put into it, and that's what you get out. It doesn't differentiate. And lastly then, the lower sector, it's called the form, or the fruit here. So that says the effect, or the results, the body, the harvest, or the fruit of the garden. So again, what you see or experience today is a result of what you thought or seeded and nurtured yesterday and before. And so, Edwin, if you could put us here out of our misery of trying to read that chart. Let's turn back to our garden analogy for a bit. So we plant the seed in the soil, and we provide water, sunlight, nutrients from the soil. And again, we talked about preparing the bed, which was smoothed out, just like our minds must be in preparing for planting of any new idea. And we know that growth occurs more readily if our thoughts are planted in a calm, harmonious mind. And to use the well-worn analogy of driving down the road in traffic and having somebody cut you off, I don't care what you'd been thinking of before that, chances are you've totally forgot about that as you introduced that person to a part of your hand. But I realize that it's probably such a worn out analogy or discussion or talk that none of us does that anymore. Yeah, no, that's true. Okay. But there's another aspect of planting, and it's called faith. We don't plant unless we have faith. So to sow a seed requires a measure of faith, and another one, patience. You take this small, dried up little seed, and you put it in the ground, and you assume, or you have faith, that the fruits it will bear will look like you expect. Either you got those expectations from the package, the burpee seeds or whatever, or maybe you got that directly from a vegetable. So you have that faith that it's going to come out that way. And then you get to have some patience. Well, the package said it would only take so many days for it to germinate, right? And so you wait and you wait and you water. The appointed time arrives and it doesn't sprout. You wait another couple days and it doesn't sprout. Right? Well, it got a couple choices there, right? So anyway, if it did sprout, now it's growing and you're enjoying watching it grow, but you have another opportunity for patience, let's say, is that the seed package said you would have vegetables or whatever in 45 days, right? So you get to wait another 45 days. But at least during that time, you have some kind of constant feedback. You can see that the tomatoes have set or that the squash is growing or something like that. And you get to go out there and you get to commune with nature. You get to commune with the vegetable garden. And it is actually a calming thing. So, if it didn't sprout, you have a choice. You could dig in the ground just a little bit and see if it was trying to sprout. Or you could dig it up entirely and say, oh yeah, it was sprouting, and you can put it back in and hope that it's going to work, but usually it doesn't. So in our spiritual analog, now that we've finished with the physical world, we plant the seed or the prayer, and then we release it into the law, knowing or affirming or having faith that it will grow and bear fruit. And part of that many times is even said in the spiritual mind treatment, affirming that it is already done and we can release it. Now, the results happen in Spirit's time. there's not a little package that said in 45 days, you're going to be a millionaire or whatever we've planted. And so that seems a little discouraging, I think. But in the larger picture, time is only a construct of this dimension, right? People on the other side say that time doesn't exist. Yesterday, today, tomorrow are all just compressed together to this isness. So anyway, as we say that this whole process begins with the planting of a seed, it's also true in our spiritual kingdom, if you will. And you can change your life simply by paying attention to the spiritual seeds you sow daily. And here again, it goes back to the poem or the prose that Judy read. Is it, what did we sow? Did we sow hatred or did we sow love, for example? And so that has to start with an awareness of what our emotional triggers are. Because we know that every time that we give that one-fingered salute to the driver, we're affirming something different than what we profess that we want to be affirming. And as far as emotional triggers and dealing with that kind of stuff, there's any number of books and techniques that work with this, so you can avail yourselves of that. And that feeds right into this theme of being careful what you sow. And it's true that no seed can produce other than what it came from. And if you sow discord and disharmony, you will reap the same. If you sow love, peace, harmony, and joy, you will bring more of the same to yourself and the world. And so we can tie this easily into the idea of us elevating our consciousness so that we elevate the consciousness of the world. Now, this idea of seeding is similar to the idea of giving or tithing. So normally we give, we might say, to plant seeds of goodness in the world. We also, as we give, we affirm our faith in the abundance of the universe and that the universal flow is our source. Now, I was researching some information for this talk, and I ran into something that I had not heard anywhere else. And this was, this person was talking about naming your seed when you were making an offering. And I don't know, have anybody heard of that before? And I thought, that's interesting. So, and of course, this is talking about money offerings, and I'll elucidate and then read some of what he said. But, I just want a sidebar to even that sidebar is that I know you are continuing to contribute generously to Wellspring, and for that we are grateful. And it does keep these doors open and the lights on, so thank you for that. This is not a sermon or a talk on increasing your tithing. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying this is perhaps a technique that we can use to supercharge our giving. I don't know. All right, so we know that money is neutral. So this idea is that we give our money a mission. So I'm going to read now. The author suggests that we should look at money as if it were stem cells. When you sow money in the form of an offering, it can and will grow and bring you something in return. However, you have to tell it what it is to become, what need you have that you're expecting it to answer. So that is where the naming of your seed comes from. And he says, so I always name my seed something. Very simply, I'll tell my seed what to come up as. I'll write a check and touch the check and say, seed, I command you to come up in my life as, and you give it that. Then he says, I pray over it, lifting up whatever my need is, and then I give that seed happily. And it always works. The seed always comes up as whatever you tell it to, because money answers all things. Now, I know I've read Edwene Gaines's book, and we've attended Edwene Gaines's workshop. And, you know, she uses tithing as, me paraphrasing here, confidence in the divine flow, and tithing to where or what feeds you, that concept. But I don't ever recall hearing something about this concept. So anyway, if it makes sense to you, use it. But I just thought it was a different way of thinking about this means of exchange that in and of itself is neutral. So we'll move on now to, you know, we've planted our garden and we just can't go away and leave it. So we've got to tend it a little bit. And for example, we have to thin our vegetables. If we planted carrots, if you get them too close together, we've got a problem. So we need to thin them out, and even fruit trees we have to thin out to ensure full healthy growth of the remaining plants, because our crowded seedlings can become stunted. And with carrots, you know, they get all gnarled around each other. I see Judy is shaking her head. She's a gardener at heart. Yeah. And this also increases their susceptibility to disease and the pests. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. Is there some way we can apply this to our thoughts, not just to plants? And perhaps this is like if you're all over the place with your affirmations and thoughts, maybe you need to focus on fewer items at a time. Now I thought, well, does that really fit in with our philosophy or not? Because I don't think Spirit has a problem responding to and supporting multiple requests at once. You know, given all the omnis that Spirit is. However, I wonder if it's we humans have difficulty effectively keeping multiple thoughts cleanly and pristinely, if you will, in our mind at one time. So I don't know, it's just thought there must be an analogy here. And of course, we talked a little bit about weeding as far as preparing before, and that is to be aware of your thoughts. Do you negate your affirmations by what your monkey mind is doing, or the thoughts that it is sowing? Now, I know many of us have wonderful affirmations on our mirror that we read every morning. However, by 9 a.m., have we already contradicted each of them many times in our own mind? So we just need to work on that. And then watering, of course, we talked about that 2 weeks ago. And if you remember last week, Kamatara spoke of the wellspring or the source that we all are. You know, that's how we sustain our thoughts, our garden. And so throughout the season, whatever that is, whatever the growing period is, whatever the fruiting period is, however long it takes, we need to continue to provide water, energy, and sustenance to the garden of our thoughts. Again, maintaining that flow, dealing with any new leaks that have sprung up, any new issues that have surfaced in our life. And then harvesting. And of course, this is the part we've all been looking forward to. The results of our loving attention to our seeds, seedlings, and plants. If we have been doing everything else properly, and you notice I didn't say perfectly, I said properly. I didn't want to use the word adequately, but I just wanted to contrast that with our need to expect perfection out of ourselves. So if we've been doing everything else, then we will enjoy the fruits of our harvest. And we were just talking in Early Birds today about what folks do to sort of regain their center. And we know that gardening can be very therapeutic, getting your hands in the soil. And again, last Sunday, Kamatara was speaking about their COVID garden and how they hadn't had a garden in how many years that they had been there, and they really enjoyed it. So that's a way of connecting yourself to Mother Earth, and that also helps calm you spiritually as well. And there's another concept that is connected to planting a garden or a tree, and that is by planting, we are affirming that life goes on or will go on. And they say gardening is a way of showing that you believe in tomorrow. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And then there's the harvest that you don't expect to see, so to speak. They say that a properly planted English garden only reaches its prime 50 years from its planting. So many times the gardener is not even there to see that. Or someone said the true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. It's called leaving a legacy of unselfishness where others will benefit from what you have left behind. And I know that the contributions we make to our personal growth have a much broader impact on the collective consciousness. Wellspring and the work that each of us is doing is causing a positive disturbance in the force and an effect that we can only imagine. As we call ourselves or have used the word for us as spiritual first responders, we know that what we do matters. What you do matters. What I do matters. What Wellspring does matters. So with that I say, and so it is. And we'll have a prayer here. So we just know that this infinite universe, this spirit, this God, this divine abundance, this omniscience is all there is. In the beginning, there was light. And from that light, everything else was begat. And we are a piece and a part of that spirit, that energy. Sometimes it's called love. We are a piece and a part of that. We are from that. We are made of that essence. We are godlings. We are spiritlings. We are divine expressions, living and experiencing the universe on behalf of that divine intelligence. So we know from that point that we are fully supported by the universe. This sustains us. This breathes us, breathes through us. We see that all the experiences that we are having right now, our friends and families are having, we know those experiences are part of this oneness living through us. In that sense, there can be nothing but perfection. Concerns for health, welfare, safety, housing, all that are merely passing distractions from that magnificence that each of us is, that each of us is experiencing. We know these challenges are just passing images on the screen, and that behind all of that is this light and this love and this peace and this harmony that is supporting each and every one of us. So from this point of knowing, we have a sense of gratitude. First of all, we have a gratitude that we even understand this, that we even consider this as a possibility, that everything is in divine order, that everything is unfolding perfectly. So we give great thanks for knowing that, and we give great thanks for the fact that it's true. And now as we have planted the seeds into the fertile, impartial, we just release it. We know that it's already done, and so it is. So I think next is music.
Ooh. Thank you for that. Was a really wonderful talk for the first day of spring, and I was thinking I want to go home and start gardening. And I was listening to that. So this is a song that we found. It's a folk song, and it's called "Planting a Seed of Peace."
Heard that.
I am planting a seed of peace on earth. Peace in my heart, and that's where it starts. I am planting a seed of peace. I am planting a seed of peace on earth. Peace in my home, that's where it's grown. I am planting a seed of peace. I am planting a seed of peace on earth, a planet of peace from all of our seeds. I am planting a seed of peace. I am planting a seed of peace on earth. Peace on my street where people can meet. I am planting a seed of peace. I am planting a seed of peace on earth. Peace with my friends, friendships won't end. I am planting a seed of peace. I am planting a seed of peace on earth. Peace in my town where there's no put downs. I am planting a seed of peace.
One more.
I am planting a seed of peace on earth. Peace in my land where we all can stand. I am planting a seed of peace.
Thank you, Mark and Taylor. And now we have a few announcements. continue with our hybrid service. If you wish to attend in person, only come if you are well, and remember to mask and social distance. We will continue our Zoom church as well. Everybody, please stay healthy. Our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. We have a submit a prayer request button on our web page, or you may contact Martha Ward or Geneva Collins with your request. That information is also on our website, www.wellspringnow.com. Our prayer team meets virtually every Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. Early Birds meet Sunday morning at 9:30 via Zoom. Link is in the weekly email and our website. And I come in to church a little early into the office, and they're having a rousingly good time at Early Bird service. So you're really missing out, apparently, if you're not tuning in, if you're not asleep, like some of us might be. Okay. Speakers, the last speaker of this month is Erwin Albrecht. Yep. There are the Richie Minden Garden. Terry told me that she had talked to Betty. She is home now with her daughter from Texas. I can't remember her name. No, her daughter from Texas is here. Yeah. And Betty plans on coming to church next week if she's able. So let's all hold her into our hearts and hold her in the light. There are 9 leaves left on the Richie Minden garden tree, still available for donations to the prayer garden, in addition to your regular tithe. The board is considering adding a walkway from the porch to the pergola for easier access. Also, there is a cost of ongoing maintenance. Make sure you put garden fund on the memo line of your check. Or you can even donate through the donate button on the website, but let us know that it's for the garden fund. All right, Roots class started last Thursday, March 11th, and was from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock for 10 weeks. The cost is $150. If interested, contact Reverend Bonnie. Also, meditation class starting April 12th for 8 weeks, Monday nights from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And contact Teresa Valenzuela. Wellspring has always been a tithing community, and 10% of what we receive goes directly to most local charities. During this time of virtual service, we thank you for your continuing spirit of giving. We ask that you mail your offerings to Wellspring Church, P.O. Box 1533, 88004, or you can use the donate button on our website to make a donation. We give great thanks for the offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving, as Edward explains, are a part of the one flow. We bless these gifts and know that they are multiplied throughout our community. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service, and we are grateful for their service and say thank you for joining us today. And Edwin back there has been doing double duty with the slides and the camera, so let's give him a round of applause. Please stay around in the Zoom meeting after the service to visit and Zoom converse with each other. So everybody please stand here if you are able, and let's read the benediction followed by our congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world. And so it is.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me.
Everybody have a great week.